Aloha, this is Reverend Tim Lytle from Unity Church of Hawaii here in Honolulu, Hawaii. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. We have wonderful services and videos and messages. We're so grateful to stand with you in faith so that you manifest the highest and best in your life, because we know where you are, God is. All of God is fully present there. So enjoy our services, enjoy the message, and thank you for joining us. Today we're looking at oneness, what we really are, or who we really are. When I was growing up, I grew up in a particular tradition, and I'm not putting this tradition down at all. I'm not putting it down at all. I love the people of this tradition. I love the experiences of this tradition. They taught me so much that stays with me. I don't have to kick everything out just because I shift and transform. I keep the stuff that continues to work, you know? And so, but there were things as I was growing up that I was taught that weren't always helpful for me. And a lot of it had to do with what we call dualism. Do you know what I mean by dualism? What's dualism?
God loves you, but you're going to hell if you don't behave yourself.
Okay, God loves you, but you're going to hell if you don't behave yourself, Tony said. You know, it's like there's two powers. It's like, and a lot of our culture is based in the idea and philosophy of dualism. Our language tends to be dualistic. There's me, there's you, there's we, there's them. And sometimes it's we versus them, or me versus whoever, or whatever, you know. At least that's what we make up in our mind. We make up this thing where we believe that there's someone or something against us, and that we need to protect ourselves from all of these dangerous things. Now, I'm not here to change anyone's belief, believe it or not. I'm not here to change anyone's belief. What I'm here to do is to offer you some teachings and some tools, and it's up to you what you do with them. You know, when I took woodworking, which is scary to think that someone would have me in woodworking class using saws, and anyway, had a great time in there. It's like, here's the tools. This is what you can do with the tools. But if you want to make a cabinet, or you want to make a dresser, or you want to make something that no one can recognize, it's up to you, you know, because you are the one that has the tools, and it's up to you what you do with it. Well, as a child, I was taught, okay, and if these are your beliefs, that's cool. I'm not telling you have to change these beliefs, all right? But as a kid, I was taught, yes, Timmy, there is a God. He loves you very much. He's very powerful, but there's someone else, and you need to be watching for him constantly. The devil. The devil is after you, Timmy. The devil is watching you all the time. The devil is, you know, knowing what you're thinking and trying to lead you astray. Oh, Timmy, be careful. Careful. The devil's right there. Right there. The devil's on your shoulder. Now, as a child, this was not very comforting. And as children, we were shown movies, you know. And again, if this is your belief, please. But they would show us movies, you know, like someone would be like a man would be shaving. And suddenly, buzz, the shaver's just buzzing in the sink, and he's gone, and the wife is looking for him. And it's like, where'd he go? Well, he got raptured, and the wife got left behind. And so they'd say, you don't want to get left behind, do you, Timmy? I just kicked over someone's coffee. No, it had a lid on it. Okay. You know, and it's like I grew up with this fear. And they said, you should be afraid. You should be very afraid. Timmy? Because any misstep, you're going to hell. Okay. Woo. Now, I already had low self-esteem. This was not helping my case any. I was thinking, how am I going to make it? What? How am I going to make it? You know? And I learned to love Jesus very much, and I still do. Jesus is my master and guide. I learned to love Jesus very much, and they said, you know, Jesus is there. Jesus is helping you. You need to lean on Jesus, you know. It's like, okay. But sometimes the messages that were given were, just so destructive about who I am and what I am. And I really didn't know for sure who I was. Now, I don't know if you can, You know, starting at age 7, I started questioning life. It's a little early, isn't it? And it got worse. From ages 13 to 15, I pretty much had resigned to the idea that life was absurd, that life was empty, that there was no meaning to it. We were like rats in a maze, and I was writing poetry, you know, like sometimes self-absorbed nihilistic youth do, and I was writing poetry about being rats in a maze, and I thought there's one of two options. Either there's no God, or God is some demented scientist that's just pushing us through this maze, seeing what we are going to do with it, not knowing if there's any cheese at the end. What a great place to be at 13. Going to middle school, trying to fit in with other kids. And so that was a real deep process for a couple of years. That just permeated my life daily, you know? And I was really trying to, is there any point to this? You know, and I'd go to church. I was still going to church and smiling and acting like everything's okay. But I was just hanging on to life by a thread. By a thread. Now, at that time, here is one of the philosophical constructs that I came up with from age 13 to 15, part of how I kept going. And pardon the depth of in-depth sharing I'm giving about myself, but one of the philosophical constructs that I came up with was, well, if I suicide, then I won't get to figure out if this could have worked out some other way, and how much worse could it get? Why not just hang in there? I'm living, and yeah, it may be hell, but maybe if I hang around long enough, it won't be hell anymore. That was the philosophical construct that kept me going, plus the fear of hell. Because that's what they taught. So, anyway, that was quite a time in my life. And I was at a church camp, and One night, I just felt this presence of God pulling me. This presence of God pulling me to go to the chapel and pray. And I said to my best friend, I don't get it. Why do I need to go there and pray? And my best friend said, why don't you just go and see what God wants? Oh, you can do that? Okay. So I went to the chapel by myself. I was in the chapel, and then I went to the back porch where the moon was just rising up above the aspen trees and the pine trees around the area of Divide, Colorado. A lot of aspen trees in that area, gorgeous area. Camp Golden Bell, if any of you are from Colorado. And so I don't know how to explain it, but for 2 years I have been going through this emptying process. So I was an empty vessel. So I was ready. I was ripe. I personally think some other lives might have had something to do with it too. But I had this spontaneous immersion in oneness where I knew, absolutely knew. I couldn't prove it to anybody. I couldn't show it to anybody, but I absolutely knew that there was only oneness, that there was only the presence of God, that there was only love, there was only light. And because there was only love and there was only light, there was no sin in it anywhere. Because how could there be sin in God? And there was no division. There was no separation. There was no low self-esteem. There was no badness. There was only God. There was only the presence of God. And because that was the only presence that there was, I was that too. Because there was no division between me and that, even though I, whatever I is, was experiencing that. I knew I was that. And I knew that was I. And I knew that that is everything. I thought, wow, wait till they hear about this at church. I couldn't wait to share it. And they'd stare at me and they'd go, oh, that's great, Tim. I mean, it was like so far outside of the box, so far outside of the construct of what I had grown up with. And it's like, God, you don't fit in the box, do you? You are somehow not ruled by the dogma of this church, are you? You're way beyond that. You're way beyond dogma. You're way beyond all these constructs that people have thought up and punish and kill other people over. So, at age 15, I had this amazing awakening into oneness. You know, and then when I was in high school, I'd be in these mystical experiences. I was younger than most other kids in school and then in my class. And it's like I was blissed out most of the time. You know, and I'd be staring up into the clouds because I was just experiencing the allness and the love of all that is. And someone would come up to me and say, "You're on drugs, aren't you?" No, I'm just experiencing this beauty, this love. You're on drugs. Because it doesn't fit the paradigm of duality, the struggle, the suffering. It didn't fit the paradigm. God rarely does. We try to make these mental constructs and dogma about God, but God is so much bigger than all that. And God is actually out picturing as each one of us. Because if there's only truly one presence and one power, then that means that presence and that power is outpicturing as us. So whoever I'm encountering, however they're acting, I'm encountering the presence of God. That's amazing. That's amazing stuff. So, whatever your challenges in life, whatever your circumstances in life, know that the presence of God is fully present, living in, through, and as you in those circumstances. That God is never separate from you. Never. Any more than you are separate from yourself. Well, that was the deal. I was so separated from myself as I was growing up, it was hard to see oneness in everything else and everyone else. But when I really got a vision and knowingness of who and what I am, that is oneness, then I could see that oneness in everything around me. Now it gets difficult at times. Did any of you see the 9 o'clock service? A few of you. I was half asleep. I'm awake now. I have some wonderful, wonderful neighbors that love the joy and experience and party and drink on Saturday night. Because Sunday morning, everybody sleeps in, right? So I was up quite a bit last night. So I was kind of dragging 9 o'clock this morning. And, in the middle of the night, I thought, should I get upset about these people? Now what am I talking about in the morning? Can oneness strangle oneness? I love you. Our circumstances don't always show up like easy. Sometimes our circumstances can be a little bit challenging. Sometimes it's much more challenging than what I was experiencing last night. We can experience, some people who can just be downright mean. We can experience circumstances in our lives that can be very, very unjust. We can experience things in life that, how could this be an expression of oneness? There were times as a child that I was abused. How's that an expression of oneness? How's that work? There are times when people we see that are mistreated based on religion, based on color, based on racial profiling, whatever, sexual orientation. We see people mistreated and treated unjustly, and it's like, okay, where's the oneness? Well, that's why you and I are here. That's what we're here to do. We're here to show up as that light. Jesus said in the Gospel of John, greater things will you do that believe. Greater things will you do. Paul in Acts chapter 17, in preaching on Mars Hill called Areopagus, said, in God we live, move, and have our being. We are here to be that presence of God. We're here to not only wake up to oneness, but to help others to wake up to oneness. To wake up to what we really are. It's not always fun to wake up. I was talking in the 9 o'clock service, maybe because sleeping was on my mind, that when I was a child, my mom has this soothing alto voice. She was a singer and soothing alto voice. And she would come in and, Timmy, it's time to get up. And I'd be laying there. I'm like, maybe if I just lay here and keep my eyes closed, she'll leave. But her voice would get a little more insistent. Tim, Tim, it's time to get up. Time to wake up. You don't want to be late for school. You want to get breakfast. You want to get dressed. Tim, are you hearing me? Tim, I know you're hearing me. Waking up can be a challenge because we get used to this whole dualistic system. But, you know, when we experience and know oneness and know the presence, when we wake up to what we really are, then we experience life. We really experience life in its fullness, in its beauty, in its love, in its creativity. Realizing that we're not here to suffer and just, barely creep along. We are here to express the presence of God and to help others to wake up as well. And that's what the Easter message is about. Rolling away the stone. Yeah, it can startle you. It's like, wow. It wakes you up. And you come out of the tomb. Thank you, Sue. And you express the Christ presence that you are. Because that's what we are here to do, is to wake up into oneness. Aloha. Thank you.